Just wait.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another show of Podcasters Unleash. It's Monday, it's 7 p.m. London time. And today we're going to talk about a very important topic. We're going to talk about race. But before we're going to go into the depth of our conversation and the topic, I want to introduce you to my co host. Let's start with you, Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon Rushton. My podcast is Taxi Chronicles. I've got over 600 episodes, and it's all about real riders with real stories, unsuspecting, sharing their personal experience about life, career, and hope that other people can be educated and then it can enhance their lives. We post every day at 8 a.m. British Standard Time or GMT, and we would love for you to give a listen. It's short, 5 minutes to 20 minutes. Over to you, Victor.
Yes. I am Victor Sio. I'm the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs podcast, where I have conversations with entrepreneurs, side hustlers who wants to shift from the core 9 to 5 towards a lifestyle of freedom. We talk about mindset. We talk about, all things entrepreneur. And you can find us on YouTube, YouTube, you know, all major podcast platforms. Over to you, Carla.
Hi everyone, I'm Carla. I'm the host of the Wonder and Wellbeing podcast, which is a podcast for parents and teachers of kids between the ages of 5 and 14 years old. And it's all about education, well-being, and all the topics that join those two things together. Over to you, Howler.
Hi, I'm the host of the podcast Women with Stories, where I share success stories from unusual women, not the women that you see on TV. And you can reach my podcast on all major podcast platforms. Over to you, Matilda.
Awesome. And my podcast is about, the name is Coffee with Matilda, A Journey to Self, and it's about finding yourself, loving yourself, and coming out of adversity stronger. And actually, let's talk about today's topic. So, I'm, we want to discuss about if race defines you. Lots of people daily, they've been discriminated and they've been treated unfairly because of their race. We want to see how is that, why is that, and also we want to look at children because we know children are not colorblind. So we want to see at what age they understand race and how they observe it. And then we want to look at some solutions so we can give some light and some feedbacks and some thoughts to process for all of you. So I'm happy to start our show. First of all, I want to ask any of you that can define race, because I think it's a very important to understand. There's a big difference between race and ethnicity. Do you guys, any of you know? Please share with me. If not, I can share the answers.
I would say it's always, I kind of put it down to the individual to a certain degree. There is the basic. If I look at somebody, I could say, well, you appear to me to be a black person, or you appear to me to be a white. With mix, you just generally say, well, you're mixed. Something's going on. You've got a nice concoction of something or other going on, but I can't really define you. But then as the black race, we have different shades based on historical. And then if you really look at, if you go back further enough, everybody comes from Africa anyway. So regardless of how people feel that, at the end of the day, down their bloodline, there's a black person, there's an African, and thing. But on the basis of on the basis of how do I define somebody as black or white or what have you, just from what I see, texture of their hair, and obviously if I'm going to refer to someone by their race or give a description, I'll try not to be offensive. Back to you, Matilda.
Very good. But do you guys have a definition of race? Any from a dictionary? Carla, do you have any?
Actually, I was confused about this word because I don't believe in the word race. I feel it's a total bullshit. There's no 4 or 5 different types of race. There is one race, is a human race, and we are all member of it. And the word racism is a man-made that was created. So we are not animals. We are human, and we have one race. and in every country you have different shades of colors. So, and ethnicity is different thing. Ethnicity is the way you are brought up in a certain culture or in a certain religion. So that is different too.
Very good. So let me ask any of you guys, have you ever been treated unfairly because of race? I mean, let's go with you, Carla.
Can I just jump in there a minute?
Yes.
If we're going to be technical about race, race describes your physical traits.
Hmm.
So that's what it's saying under Google. I won't say it's the Collins Dictionary. So your physical traits is based on usually how much melanin or lack of you have to find in what group you're in. Now, fair enough. Carola's just said her bit about she doesn't believe in it, what have you, but I would strongly disagree, because you've got the human race, which substitute human beings as general, different from other animals or mammals. But then you do within the human race, you have other races that make up the human race. And I don't think that's, you just dismiss it because we have issues with other people's races, or we've been sadly fighting for whatever be the reason in whatever part of the world. But it is there. It's something that we cannot deny, and we see it every day.
And
Oh,
very good.
discrimination exists. Just one thing: discrimination exists, and racism is a man-made, created by humans. Okay, but God honored us in this earth, and we are brought up in this earth as free people with one race, human race. I mean, maybe
But maybe we can read the dictionary. So for all of us to be on the same page, on the dictionary by Merriam-Webster says race. They define race as a category of humankind that shares certain distinctive physical traits. Race is usually associated with biology and linked with physical characteristics such as hair texture or skin color. So we have to be very careful to not combine it with ethnicity, because if we combine that to ethnicity, I think the topic will get much bigger. And ethnicity, I mean, race, you're born into, it's biological. And ethnicity, you adopt, you take certain things. That's what I'm understanding from my research. So let's see,
Yeah,
Carla.
before,
Can you,
sorry about this. Before Carla jumps in, we have guests here, so let's just like welcome the guests. We have Rifa Tasfia Prova, and she says hi. Or, she says hello. We have our number one guy here, Sasha Shesh Pakarian. I'm just surprised. His comment is, I'm just surprised when you use races. There is only one race, different origins or color. And we have pardon me, Kaber. Shitiwa.
Sitia?
Sitiwa. Yeah, Sitia Kaber. I'm usually good with names. She says hi. And we have Rixiat. Okay, no. I'm really, really sorry for the pronunciation of these names, or butchering the names, but I'm really, really trying my best here. So Riasat Mahi. She says, hey. So we have other audience coming in. So let me just allow you to continue with Carla now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matilda.
I just wanted to make sure that Akram is here. We're very happy to see you, Akram.
Awesome. Great.
Akram,
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so I am going to answer your question in a minute about whether or not I've been discriminated against. But I just wanted to add this about the history of the word race itself. So Howler is right and Simon is right. But actually what's quite interesting is the word race is a modern word. The use of it is a modern word in the sense of nations and ethnic groups. And it first came about in the 16th to 19th century, in between that time. And since then, it's become more and more popular to discuss or to refer to people according to this word race. But actually before that, people were generally spoken of in terms of their ancestry, in terms of the tribes that they originated from. And the color of their skin wasn't necessarily an important factor. So I just wanted to add that in about the history. It's a very modern term. And we still haven't got clear definitions about how to categorize people, because at one point when human beings were traveling in a limited way around the world, it was easy to classify people into 4, let's say 5 groups when this term first came about. But now, with widespread travel and so much mixing of different people, and it's becoming more and more silly to categorize people according to this concept of race. Because you don't only get 2 mixes, like with me, for example, coming from 2 backgrounds, but now you can have 4, you can have 8, you can have 16, you can have all sorts of different mixes. So now it's becoming ridiculous, actually, to be able to categorize people. And it's an oversimplification to go according to skin color, as we can tell from you, me, and Howler, who all have quite similar skin complexions and a similar look. It would be very difficult to tell us apart, but we are very different, aren't we? So, yeah.
And maybe to audience, Carla, introduce your race. That's important. You said you're mixed, so what are you?
Yeah, I come from a mixed background. So my dad was a Jamaican person, and anybody who knows anything about Jamaican people, the motto of Jamaica is out of many, one people. Why? Because it's a mixed group of people. So in Jamaica, you can have Chinese people from Chinese backgrounds. You can have people come from Indian backgrounds. You can have people coming from African backgrounds. And when we say African, it could be multiple countries, multiple tribes. You can have people from Irish backgrounds. You can have Lebanese people. It's limitless. So hence why I look the way I look. The other side is my mother was a Scottish person. And again, anybody who knows about Scottish people knows that they also have some Viking ancestry. They also have some African ancestry, believe it or not. If you look at some of the recent anthropological work that's been going on looking at Scottish heritage, lots of them have African DNA. And you will find lots of Scottish people have very curly hair. See mine.
Oh, wow.
Just from
I didn't know that.
But also red hair, which is also a trait that you can find in the Middle East. So there is some Middle Eastern blood there in Scotland. So I come from 2 very mixed sets of people. And people always find it difficult to place me. So wherever I've gone in my life, people always say, well, what are you? And they never guess it right. I've never had someone say, oh, you're half Jamaican and half Scottish. So it's quite interesting.
Nice. So
in terms of discrimination, yes, I have. I was called names as a child at school because the children, some of the English children, white-skinned English children, didn't know what I was, but they knew I was something different, and they would call me different names based on that. They would mix me up with Pakistani children. They would mix me up with Indian children, and they would mix me up with anyone that wasn't a white-skinned person. So I had that from a very early age. I've also had discrimination actually from darker skinned people who have had issues with me for whatever reasons. I've been called names from that side as well. And I've also had discrimination, not directly to me, but to my children, because my children, their fathers are Jamaican heritage and darker skin. So they are, I often get, I wouldn't say it's discrimination directly, but people will sort of question how they can be my children, which I always find puzzling, especially in an era when most people watch television and know about mixing, but people are sometimes still confused. I've also had people directly ask me discriminatory, even racist questions, such as why would I have children with a black person, which I found quite insulting. Oh yeah.
I mean, excuse me, that's my husband. What do you want from me?
Yeah, I've had that asked to me directly. And also I've had people just make negative comments about, my children's skin color or about my family members' skin color. So, yeah.
And how does it, I want to understand, how does it make you feel when people comment to you like that?
Very angry. It's usually by instinct. It's either angry or hurt is your instinct in the beginning when you get those things. But then as you get older and you get more mature and you learn to respond to people and you learn more about yourself, you learn to take pride in your heritage and things like that. I actually feel quite sad and feel sorry for people, actually. So I always try and educate people and take the opportunity to kind of put my own emotions out the way and just set them straight. But it's very disappointing when you get that kind of thing, and you have to try and help people to see sense, I would say.
Very nice.
Before Matilda,
kinda-
just a second. Let's just have some. The comments are pouring in, so let me just do a quick one here. Akram, Emma, welcome, Akram. And Akram says, racial discrimination is not limited to color, but includes all characteristics of the race. And we have Tasina here. Aliyah says, good to see you all. And we have an interesting comment from Fahara Kanam. And the comment is, I would try to highlight what Hala is referring to. The Quran mentions mankind were but one community, then they drifted 10:19. So maybe she's quoting from the Quran. So and hey, hi James. James says I'm new here. James George says I'm new here. So welcome, James, and thank you. You say you came here to support. Yeah, we have some audience questions for you. And Sasha says technically, science based on genetics prove there is no major difference. And Akram came with this again, says event in Sweden and Iraqi children, an event in Sweden, an Iraqi child excelled in school, so the school decided to take a fun trip to Brazil to reward the successful students. Therefore, I addressed the father of the Iraqi child to bring his son's passport to obtain a travel visa. So, yeah, go ahead, Matilda. We have some very interesting comments here.
Okay, let's go. And what about you, Victor? Have you ever been treated unfairly because of your race? First, tell me about your race. What do you define your race? And then let's go about it.
I would say I've not done any form of DNA test or try to trace my ancestry like Carla. I am 100%. I would like to believe I'm 100% a black guy, from Nigeria, from the south of Nigeria. So there was no, left or right. There's no shade of variableness in me. I'm pure 100% black. And yes, I live in Nigeria and the UK. So in London here, we sometimes we face some of these discriminations, and it is very, very, it is very draining sometimes when you try to feel belonged to somewhere and you get some not sometimes side comments, but in your face. And some people use now they kind of use the influence of maybe alcohol to tell you how they actually feel about you. And yeah, they just use that just to take the piece to tell you how they actually feel. I've had egg thrown at me from a bus. So when I was going to pick up my son from school, so it is really, really it is really draining to start reacting towards that. But and as we keep going, we keep growing up, we just there's some things you don't really bother talking about. You just want to keep on showing up and sharing your truths about you and be a person of value to yourself and the community that you actually live in right now. So yes, I've seen a thing or two about, and coming from an African country, there's so many stereotypes about an African, not just a black person. A different stereotype. That is another level of discrimination as again. So and see, this hour-long show will not do us justice if we start going towards each detail, you know.
Yeah. But how does it make you feel when you see this kind of this kind of behaviors from people?
It's disappointing.
Mm.
Yeah, it is very disappointing. You know, coming from Nigeria, and you get this supposed civilized culture, and you come here and you see some of them behaving worse than animals.
Wow.
You get it is very, very disappointing for you to. Why would you want to throw raw egg at someone? You don't even know the person. You want to spit at them. You don't know them, and you have
Yeah.
this. Whereas this is supposed to be, it's supposed to be an enlightened, a free society whereby all races are welcome, all shades are welcome, all beliefs are welcome. But when it comes to feeling, it is, yeah, you can't even quantify the feeling, because when you go through this during the daytime and you come back home, you can't tell your kids how it went. Oh, daddy, how was your day? You were just like, oh, man, it was fine, everything is fine. But you know you are just going through the motions, and you just don't want to say anything because it's going to erupt. And when you start talking about that, it kind of bends the mindset of your kids, and then you start programming them towards going outside, and it is hard work. It is hard work. Yeah.
Wow. Victor, we have a lot of comments.
Oh yeah.
We need to keep up with
Need
those
to
too.
track back now.
Otherwise, we don't want to be a racist, not reading their comments.
Yeah. I'll track back to Sasha. Sasha says, Carla, do you think the question about your husband was offensive deliberately, or the result of someone's being clumsy? I will allow you to answer that in a minute. And we have Janet Khan. Our society is based on full of racism, you know, and she continued to say, provide some tips on reducing it. And yeah, Thomas, hey, welcome, Thomas. Thomas says, my mom is Scottish. And then we have Fahad here. Fahad says, this racism is a cause for our world. This is like a virus that has no vaccine yet. I hope they create a vaccine soon. Yeah. And Akram said the Brazilian embassy refused to grant the girl a visa to enter his territory because she was Iraqi. That's interesting. And P2 Paul says nice. And okay, expert says no one can deny the existence of racism in the world from end to end. Perhaps it is in the civilized Western countries more than the developing ones, or the so-called underdeveloped. So the developing ones. I'll stop at there. So yeah, Carla, if you want to answer Sasha's question, then was it
Yes.
deliberate or just clumsy?
No, it was deliberate, actually. You could mix it up for an innocent comment or clumsy comment, but actually there was a follow-up comment to that, which was that black men are no good. That was the person's justification for asking me that question. They told me that black men are no good. So.
Oh, wow. This is... But I want to continue. I mean, this is like a little bit shocking what I'm hearing. I cannot even think how my day would go if that kind of things. I mean, why would people do these kind of things? I don't know. Then you constantly review that as how is this possible? Like, I can understand if someone discriminates you based on your behavior. I do that, and everyone should. You know, you don't want to deal with wrong people, but discriminating people that they haven't done anything to you yet, they haven't even talked to you yet, it's a little bit like shocking. I want to say, Faraha Khanum, thank you for coming. And George, thank you for showing up. And Mr. Infinity, thank you for joining. And happy birthday to your wife. Sorry, I'm kind of advanced.
Matilda, just to jump in there, Janata Khan, she's come out with a comment, says, please provide some tips for reducing it. And I've had this discussion with quite a few people, and I think it more relates to European countries. If the government really wants to push down racism, you're never going to get rid of it altogether, because when people get upset, they say nasty things. It's inevitable. But if the government really wants to push down racism in the British sense, they need to show what everybody did to contribute to the British Empire, to the British development. Because when you teach children that from a young age, it's like being very inclusive. It's saying in India, they come with their spices, they've come with numbers, they've come with so many different things. In Africa, they've come with music. There's all these different things that everybody's contributed. So as you get older, you don't look at these people as things, because you can respect what they've done for you, assuming you've got, your marbles, full marbles. And that would be my response to what Janata Khan has requested.
Actually, yeah, we can go a little bit deeper later on the show to see what we can do to reduce it, or if we can reduce it in any way. But before that, Simon, I want to hear your story. Tell us, have you been treated unfairly because of your race?
I think excuse me, you can see that some people may not be too keen on you. Now, I always try and stay neutral, in the sense of give someone the benefit of that. Maybe it's just my personality they don't like, rather than jumping on things. If someone actually comes and says something to me, that's something different. I find that I'm a fan of violence. So if you say something to me, there's going to be a repercussion very quickly. Assuming sometimes I'm a bit slow. So like I was in a taxi and this guy was coughing. And we drove him for about 10, 15 minutes. And then as he's getting out, he said, "Oh, I must be allergic to black men." Now, he said that as he was getting out. It was nighttime and what have you. But I didn't really register what he had said until he'd probably gone in his house. But there's no point me going knocking on his door now. It's gone past that stage. Well, I should, if I'd registered straight away, then I could have said to him, "Okay, what do you want to do?" Because
like
very
punching
simply,
and stuff.
Sorry?
Like punching and stuff.
Obviously, you're going to put him down, aren't you?
Yeah.
So he said something out. He needs to get a slap.
Mm.
It's very simple. And then he'll think twice before saying it, because you can think what you want, but if you're going to say something to people, you're going to get some kind of repercussion.
For me, this is the fascinating point is like the guy didn't, for example, in all of these examples that I'm hearing right now, the other person doesn't need to say anything to you. I mean, even if they don't like it, they can zip it and not express it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even express it that way, I don't understand why you
Matilda,
have to express.
you can say, remember, there's some people who say, and we're talking about European countries really, or white dominated countries, that racism, if you're not white, you can't be racist. Now, I understand it. I don't technically agree with it, but I understand it, because what they're saying is that racism can be seen as a form of discrimination, and you have to have power to be able to discriminate. Do you understand? So if your race or group of people is in the jobs, running the music industry, running this, running that, and then you're very racist, that is actually not just racism, it's actually real discrimination, because you can stop people from feeding their children and doing other things. Oh, fair enough. The argument is they can go and do another job. Yeah, but their skills may be in something special in that department, in singing, for instance, which is very common with black people. So I was talking to my friend who works for Sony, and I said, you guys, they must be, Interscope have a policy, of signing every act that comes along. Because the idea, they don't want their rivals to get them. And if they sign them, if they do get big, they'll make the money. So I said, they must be signing a lot of black people, because obviously black people are very talented when it comes to music and dance and stuff. And she said, no, not that many. I said, really? Why? She said, well, Now, that's a prime example. We've got a sea of talent. Everything is copied. We're mimicked in every style. Even the lingo that we use as black people, especially black Americans, is used in Parliament today. From the get-go, all these little terminologies, but they say it in their posh manner. But yet, when it comes down to things, you're restrained. Oh, we only need a certain amount. We need to fill a quota. So that's why you get some people say, but my personal thing is, I'm just going to do what I want to do. You get in my way, we're going to have some words about it, and you're going to get out my way. And that's how far as it goes. It's very simple. And
you handle it your way.
You know what? You know why? Because that's not that's the British government's attitude. That's the American government. If they want your oil, I know we're deviating. If they want something from you and you're not willing to give it, they come and take it, and they get their way. So we should have the same principle. You take what you want. If people don't give it, if people don't want to give you respect, you make sure you take it, and then they will give you it. They may not like you, but they know where there's a line. It's very simple. But back to you.
I want to ask one more question from you, Simon. When they give you that kind of comments, what makes you feel? What kind of emotion comes to you?
Nothing really. Because you brought up in, it's like this. As an adult now, you can look at things and think, this person's not too bright, are they? It's more that now, because you don't know your history. You don't know the house you're living is built on the principles of what black people built in Egypt 5,000, 8,000 years ago. Do you understand? You don't know the medicine and things that you've used are based on the principles of what we've given you. Even the music, even open heart surgery, the list goes on. Yeah. You don't know the fact that you can go from one place to another. The GPS is invented by a black woman. Vaccination, principle of vaccinations comes from black slaves that were from Africa.
Wow.
But if you really hated us, you wouldn't use anything. Because we've contributed a lot to society. That's not to say other people haven't, but I can only speak of my group of people as an example. And so really and truly, when people come out with comments, either they're just really upset that moment and they're trying to hurt you as much as possible, which I understand, because I can't say I haven't upset people before and people haven't upset me. But overall, if you're really trying to say you're like a hard racist and neo-Nazi, you really don't know what you're talking about. But back to you.
Yeah, Carla.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As a teacher, I've talked to lots of students over the years as well about things like racism and prejudices and things like that. And also I've seen a lot of things and heard a lot of things. And I really do believe that it's very rare to find a genuine racist. And why I would say that is to actually be a genuine racist, you've got to have a valid reason that can stand up, a valid reason to dislike a person based on the color of their skin or their heritage, for example. Most people who appear to be racist, they're actually not racist. What they are is frightened. They're frightened people who have a lack of education or a lack of knowledge, or people who have been brought up and indoctrinated in some way with a dislike or a jealousy. I just saw a comment pop up. I was just about to say a jealousy or a fear or a distrust of other people. Sometimes a person may have had a negative experience, and instead of being helped to get over that negative experience, it's been allowed to fester in their heart and their mind. And that's given them a fear or a prejudice against all people from that background. But it is very, very rare to find a genuine racist. You need to be very intelligent and have lots of knowledge of different people and have made a conscious decision to dislike them based on that information, which is usually not the case. You would struggle to find a true racist, because most human beings actually in their heart don't really feel that way. They don't harbor that. It's fear or these other things that I've said.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
just to add to that quickly, so I know we got a lot of comments. With the fear, it's very true. I live in Africa, and I've had people in my own regiment from the military when I was, it's a British military. How did you go to Africa just like that on your own? Oh, you must be okay because, you're kind of one of them. Or, well, no, 400 years ago, yeah, but we don't know where from. It's a totally different culture. Oh, well, if I went there, I couldn't do that. Why not? Well, racism. They're just on the assumption that they're going to be hated because they're not the majority race. No, not at all. And sadly, in many African countries, they're adored, even though of their past history of racism as a white race. They're adored for whatever bit of reason, still manifesting or colonial mentality. It's not in every country, but in enough. And that's the prime example. There's that fear, and there's also the element of unknown. I just think I do it. But then I say that, in saying that, I love architecture. I'm a lover of architecture and construction and things like that. I'd love to go to Russia. But I always know if I do go to Russia, I'm going out at the daytime with a tour guide, and at night I stay at home because I know they're not too keen on our people. But I have that experience from England. I know England's bad enough at times. France, Germany. Now we're going to the hardcore. Common sense. But
Simon, you should come to Iran. You should come to Iran with us. So you love history. You're gonna enjoy it.
okay.
Yeah, Matilda, just a quick one here. We have the comments are flooding in. See, let me just do a quick one here. So, Mr. Infinity says, "Oh yes, just had a very ugly experience at work. Was restricted from work for 4 months. Racism is still very much ongoing, but being shaded by the class that's making things happen." We have Salo Dempsey says hello, hello everyone. I am a victim, and let me say it's daily occurrence based on where I'm from, based on where I am today, the Gulf. As most of the people who have been in the Gulf, we all understand the different races here. So it's so far from numb. No, it's so far numb. All you've got to do is learn how to live and focus on your purpose of being here. George gives us a thumbs up. Mr. Infinity, thanks, guys. We have lots and lots of comments going. See, we have one for Rifa says racism can be revealed through people's action as well as their attitude. It can also be reflected in systems and institutions. Farah said, "Welcome, Matilda. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, thank you for showing up as well." Yeah, Be Me Akim Olaya says there's racism everywhere, even in Africa. African tribes discriminate against each other. We have one from Thomas says, "That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. A good black man is and always been will be someone I look up to in every way." Go ahead, Matilda.
I want to say, Frederick, thank you for showing up. So we see you, and thanks for your support. These are our main followers and our main fans. So yeah, and now Kavla, sorry. I want to come to you. I want to see, what is your experience? Have you ever been treated unfairly because of your race? And you live in France, so
Yes.
first explain what is your race, so we
Well,
can.
I don't have the same experience as everybody here about the skin color, but I have experience about ethnicity and religion and my background.
Mhm,
And when you see in different countries, you have different history. For example, you have in the U.S. or in the other countries, you have this history of the slavery. But in France, you have the history of religion, where they're trying to get rid of religion, and so it's different issues in different countries. And I had discriminated because of my background. Because I'm Middle Eastern, so I'm North African, Middle Eastern, from Morocco originally. So of course, I have been discriminated, racist jokes, professors who were discriminated. I mean, they were very discriminated, and they were very,
Professors?
yes, French
This is like
professors.
weird.
Yes, and also in the corporate job, in the corporate world, people are not that nice. So if they want to bring you down, they will do whatever they need to bring you down and to get you out from their site. So they will use anything to just make you in the corner and not to, not to speak and not to claim your, defend yourself. And that's very this situation actually is very frustrating, because when you see, for example, in France, you don't have that sense of community. For example, I see a lot of people help each other. For example, when I see the black community, they help each other. When you see, like in the United States, they have this kind of community if something happened. But I mean, here in France, you don't have that kind of community, or it's like you are here, so you need to respect the rules. And if someone says something to you, don't be sensitive, take it as it is, and keep going. Which and nothing could be questioned.
Oh,
So
wow.
you need to follow the rules and adapt everything. And if it's possible to remove the culture, remove the religion, don't talk about it, and, and change your
And
name. That would be good.
and speak French fluently.
Yes, without any accent.
Oh
So
God.
you won't be discriminated. I mean, if you say one word, one French word with an accent, it's you're gonna have a lot of judgment.
I'm telling you, come to America. You can speak however you want in English. Even if you
Uh,
don't want to speak English, don't, it's okay, no problem. We all are okay with it.
Hello, you think that's bad? Try being an Englishman in Paris. After 100 years war, and they still not upset with us.
Oh, God.
Well,
Yeah,
Victor, your
we
job is difficult today.
we have an interesting one from Akram. He says the guilt of the followers of religion, either because I think that's response to what I don't know, response to what Hala was just saying. But it says the guilt of the followers of religion, either because they are forgers or not apply the principles of faith they believe. So we have another one. Racism is more than just words, beliefs, and action. We have Mr. Infinity says, at the beginning, one of the affected end, being treated wrongly, will at first take on a light shoulder, open mindset. You need an open mindset, I believe. Yeah, Frederick. Yeah, welcome, Frederick. Yeah, I've experienced a bit of discrimination, but only in the military. Ooh, that will be interesting. Can you share more on that, Frederick? Yeah, an expert says appealing to manufactured law made by humans, whatever they may be, must be tainted by some defects and shortcoming. So you see, we have, however, it came from the most unbelievable group of folks. That is from continue. That's Frederick continuing his conversation. And we have one from Fahara says, okay, it is an agenda. It's like discriminatory rhetorics are fed again and again through so many mediums like TV, news, etc. This becomes part of language, thought, and perception. I couldn't agree with that more. Dorothy say, imagine being a woman.
Oh, it's beautiful to be a woman.
As this continues, one starts to realize being treated simply because of their racial profile, very easy to decode, especially at workplace. That's from Mr. Infinity. And James George says, you guys choose a very strong topic. Yes, we choose any topic here and we come from our own perspective and how we see life, you know. And the experts continue with this brilliant one says, but the best solution is to refer to the divine laws mentioned in the religions. So there is no contradiction or disorder in them. And Mr. Anthony said, very correct, Simon. Take it by force. That was to your earlier comment, Simon. Take the respect by force. Don't let them pull you down. Yes, go ahead, Matilda.
Okay, so now I want to see. I mean, Carla has been working with children for a
Matilda,
long time. Yes, Simon.
I just want to jump in there because Hannah said something earlier, and I don't want to forget it, where she said, sorry, actually, go on to Carla. It's left me already.
Is it very funny? We don't know the memo. We didn't get the memo.
No, it's not that. It's that my memory's terrible. I'm trying to remember. I should have written it down. So, that's
You're
it.
Asian.
Wait,
You
I
are
remember that.
Asian.
I remember. Hannah was talking about she didn't have the discrimination, and like black people and Black America, they team together. Now, what if you use America as an example, how racism increases or even is formed? You got the Europeans who went to a country that wasn't theirs, and they're fighting the people who are already there. So they band together, and then those people out there, they read this and all of those things. Then they brought us as black people over there, and then we have to, barring feeling sorry for the Indian man, we have to band together because they're treating us really badly, and probably still are today. Any more immigrants that come over, they kind of get in their little bubble. So where if anybody comes late to the party, you don't really form in your group. You're just told to get in line because everybody's got their groups already and it's solid. Do you see what I mean? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Carla. You're first generation immigrant to Paris, yeah? You weren't born in France.
No. No.
Okay, so you're first generation immigrant. So in the terms that we use here, she's really late to the party because there's been waves and waves of immigrants prior to her who have settled and established themselves in Paris. So that's probably why. They're just telling you, just don't speak. Jealousy. Just don't speak. Just do what we're doing and don't come with anything different because we've got a lot going on already. Do you see
But
what
there are a lot of Algerians here and people from North Africa here in France.
But they're probably established already.
Yes, but I think, but there's no sense of community actually. I mean, everyone's, it's very different.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, so Victor, are we reading some of the comments, and then I'm going to go for my next question.
Yeah, this is interesting. See, the comments are coming. I'm trying to catch up. See, I would see. Okay, from experts, it says, and it would be okay. I think this is a continuation of one of the earlier comments he made. Okay, and it would not have been the final religion of God unless it was for all people. Islamic texts have laid down values for the differentiation between people based on holiness of God. And Frederick Villalobos says it came, excuse me, it came from African Americans towards me, but I carried on. Okay, he was talking about the discrimination he faced in the military. He said it came from African Americans towards me, but I carried on. Did not bother me ultimately. I became friends with the same group of folks. And expert said no color, race, or lineage. And we have hey Alison, welcome again. Alison says fear and ignorance, which is what is actually happening. Frederick says, but then again, I was 17. My optics at that point in life might not be what I construe my memories as a young, inexperienced man, as a young, inexperienced person. Alison says, Russia can be scary, but Also beautiful and fascinating. I've been to St. Petersburg. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, try not to be fearful or ignorant to how it can be. That's an advice to you, Simon.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me stop there. Alison's a singer, and she goes there and gets a red carpet treatment. If I go there, I'm not a singer, and I ain't get no limo, no jet, no Russian bodyguards, no caviar. That's a different thing. Go on.
Okay. Frederick says, however, I must clarify that I do not believe that the US is racist. Interesting. I believe that much of the media is using this word, so often that it's lost its meaning. And before we go any further, let me just pause with Sasha here. It says, sorry to say that, but the pyramids in Egypt were not built by African people. You have a lot of genetic studies about these things. Kush civilization built pyramids, but in Nubian area and not in Egypt. That's very.
I don't get what he's saying there,
yeah.
but I don't know. I don't understand what he's saying, but I know they're built by African people, black people.
Yeah. Let me just read it again so that it goes down. Sasha says, sorry to say that, but the pyramids in Egypt were not built by African people. Okay. I would like you to explain more, Sasha. You have a lot of genetic studies about those things. Kush civilization built pyramids, but in Nubia area and not in Egypt. Okay, I would like you to. I totally disagree, with that comment. So, but moving forward, Rifa says, in recent weeks, anti-racist demonstrations have taken place against the backdrop of global health pandemic, which emerging evidence suggests is disproportionately affecting people from Black and ethnic minorities and the poorest household, highlighting again the stark inequalities in our society. Regards the word ethnic minorities, was when I came to England, I realized I was an ethnic minority, because where I came from, we are the majority, and England is like 2 states in Nigeria or 3 states in Nigeria. So, coming here, I'm like, what's going on here? So over to you, Matilda.
Okay, so now I want to ask my next question, so we can go forward with the show. But since Carla worked with students a lot, and I wanted to ask a lot of you guys, but I'm gonna use 2 of you for this question. Carla, you worked with students and with children a lot, and we all know that children are not colorblind. What age do you think they start understanding race and racial differences?
Oh, that's a good question, Matilda. First of all, I wouldn't say it's an age. I would say it's a stage of understanding, and it's also based on their experiences. So children are very honest, very observant. So if a child, for example, has grown up in an environment where everybody around them has Victor's skin complexion, when they notice somebody who has a lighter skin complexion, they may turn around and say to their mother or their father, why is their skin different? Or why is their hair different? Or why are their eyes different? Or why is this different? But they're simply asking it as a neutral, honest, innocent question. They're not asking it loaded in any way. And once they've been given an honest, neutral answer, they will take it as that. So you might just say to the child, for example, that person comes from a different country. And in that country, there's not so much sun. So over time, those people just didn't have such dark skin, or vice versa. You might tell them that person comes from a country where people have always been exposed to the sun. So therefore, their skin is darker and they come from a different country or a different background. So children just don't have those kinds of ideas. I've never met a child that has those ideas on their own. They get them from adults. It's as simple as that. They get it from adults. When children make racist comments, when children are prejudiced, when they bully, all of those things, they come from adults. Children are made in the image of God. as all human beings are made in the image of God, and all human beings are beautiful in the image of God. And that's how children see the world. And you know that because children like me have two parents that are different colors, and we never question it. That's my dad and that's my mum, and that's always been the case since I was a child. I didn't discriminate against my mother because her skin was lighter than mine, or my father because his skin was darker, and I've never met a child who does. So they get it from adults, plain and simple. And what was the second part to your question, Matilda? You're muted.
And I want to see how they so first of all, how when they start understanding race and racial differences, and how do they handle it?
Well, again, it's based on the background, how and what kind of help they get from adults. So the more skilled the adults are, the less prejudiced the adults are, the better the children will be able to handle it. They handle it like any other difference, and they accept people. Children make friends with anyone that will play with them, basically at one stage, and then they get older and they begin to be more selective with their friends. But if they're exposed to any kind of prejudice, even subtle, I've met children that their parents think that they've been doing a really good job of hiding it, and actually it's written all over them. I've had children refuse to sit with other children based on skin color in my classes.
Wow.
I've had children overtly say nasty things, and I've seen it as young as 4, 3 years old, even 3, 4, 5 years old. Yes. I've had children make nasty comments to my children at the park as young as 5 years old. And I'm sure Victor will, and Simon, or anyone else who's been through it will say that it can be that young. In fact, recently we had a situation with my son who was at the park, and this child was about 6. This was a few weeks ago. And the child made a direct comment to my son that the comment the child made was, nobody cares what you've got to say because you're a black man. And my son is 10. Yes, Matilda. Oh, yes.
But why would I'm just trying to understand this 6-year-old child. You're 6, you're weaker than 10-year-old. Logic would say, don't say something, you might be beaten up by this 10-year-old. No?
You see, Matilda, because of things like that, if Carla's son beats the 6 years old, and there is an altercation that happens as a result of that, it will be blown up. And you see this stereotype about black people. Oh, he's aggressive, he's a threat, he's this, he's that. So this is where the stereotype starts like rolling in. The 6-year-old was not born racist. It's the conversation that parents have at home. They have during, let's say, the get-togethers where uncles and aunties come around, when they get in their social hangouts. So these are the conversations that that the parents make freely, that these kids come out to the park to say. You get, so it's not really about the child, it is about the parents of the child. See, when I was growing up, my dad, we have a rubber factory where we process latex, my dad, and we had English people come to work in our factory as skilled laborers. We have Koreans who came to work there as skilled laborers. They were living in our factory. You get, but we saw them as, this was in the 80s and early 90s, we saw them as just normal guys. And they were telling us about the West, that, oh, this, forget about, just come to the West, everything is all rosy, there's milk, there's honey, and everything is flowing. But when you do that, you find out that, even a 6-year-old can tell you nobody cares about what you think. Now, think about how it will affect the young boy, which is like 10. His self-image growing up. nobody really cares what I think. Nobody cares what I think. Nobody cares what I think. If he starts playing that in his head,
Yeah.
it will actually like his self-esteem. He'll start questioning his own self-esteem and his own self-image. So I think the conversation around kids should be well censored by parents and don't mess up the next generation because you can't because of your own ignorance or fear.
I don't have a child, so I think I know three of you guys are parents. Yes, Simon?
I'll tell you a quick story.
A quick
I know
one.
we're pushing on time, yeah. I was about 10 years old, fun fair down, I think, Great Yarmouth. White kid decided, probably about my age, they're going to start to call me all manner of black British names that they like to call. I looked at him as he's calling me names. We were jumping on a bouncy castle. He bounced against the wall, came down. So as he bounced off the wall and you fall back down on bouncy castle, I stood on him with one of my feet, pushed my foot down hard. He changed colour. It's interesting when you see people change colour. The life started to squeeze out of him. He went pink, dark red, blue, started to go purple. Eyes started to bulge out his eyes. We're the same age, still fair. Shouldn't have kept his mouth open. I came off him as I saw the life coming out of him. He never called me black bastard or nignog again. Problem solved. So my thing would be what you're telling me, Victor, yeah? Teach your child to do something about it. Don't have a problem anymore, do you? See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm
I see
like-
what you're saying.
So, I mean,
But I think Simon,
Yeah.
I think that will be chaos.
Why? Why?
If we all start
All right, let me
you need to
explain
defend,
something to you, Victor.
I'll say you need to defend yourself.
Victor,
I agreed, yeah.
you came to the party late in the sense of you come to England late. When we come in the late 50s and early 60s, we fought for every territory we have. Brixton, Peckham, Tottenham, Edmonton. The white people who wanted to cause problems, they moved out to Essex, further out, all that kind of thing. Those racist areas down there, we don't bother go down there because we know what they're about. The white people who stayed around us, they didn't have a problem with us. You take what you want, you fight for what you want, and people learn to respect you. Until you have that mentality, you always be the victim. I'm never going to be a victim. You can say something once or twice, but you won't get a chance again if I switch on in time. Yeah, and that's what it is.
so I have a question from the three of you parents. Since I don't have a child, so I never took any child to a park. But when you take your, 2-year-old, you take a 2-year-old to a park? I think so. A 2-year-old, 3-year-old, young, very young. Do they go play with everyone or they choose specifically based on race because they are more familiar at home, maybe, if they are not?
I would
Right.
say this, and obviously I think my experience is going to be a bit different from Victor's. But after when you have to deal with racists or whatever, you start to think, okay, I won't bother my kids. Like, let's say I bring my kids to the park. We got a large family, so I bring their cousins, about 10 of them. They're playing in a sandpit. They play as a group as they are. Now, if strangers come over, depending on what's going on, is whether you want them to play with you. It's depending how they're carrying on. If they seem like the hostile kinds, but then the kids there not on their own. There's 10 of them, and they range from 15 down to 5. Do you see what I mean? So you're kind of going with a case of security, but that's based on our upbringing of having to fight and deal with other races and issues. But if you compare us to the Asians, excuse the term, but Asians had a major problem because they had that thing called a Paki bashing. So I said, excuse the term, is where people will go around and just beat on them because they were weak. We didn't have that. You came to us, we fought back, and then either you joined us in following our culture and our ways, or you moved away. You need to stand up for yourself. People keep on talking about, oh, victim, victim. No, stand up for yourself and you'll be okay.
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 To answer your question, Matilda, my kids, they go by default, they go for the fun. They go for what is actually going on, not who is controlling the fun. So if they go to the park, if it's basketball or if it's play in the pit or in the sand pit, if they are building castles there, they go, oh, let me, and they just join in. So whether you are Asian, black, white, whatever it is the fun that they go for, and not who is controlling the sand bucket or who is controlling the ball. So can I join? That is what they go for.
Okay, very good. So let's, Victor, let's read a couple of comments. So we're
Yeah.
gonna go back to some solutions.
Okay, we have Shajada, Shajada Moshid. He says, I'm from Bangladesh. Here still we can see racism because between major and minor. You get, so minor people facing it very much, especially in religious part. And we have an interesting one from Paul Ako. He said, I've experienced
Welcome,
racism.
Paula.
Oh yeah, welcome, Paula. Yeah, he said, I've experienced racism as a white person. It sickens me. I have mixed race grandchildren, and watch what they have to go through every day, totally different to how my children were treated. That is kind of powerful. So, and then we have another one from Tasfia. Says, humiliating treatment, beatings, sexual abuse of marginalized groups often contrast starkly with treatment accorded to others, and members of these groups have little recourse to legal remedies and abuse. That's interesting. And I'll just go with, I'm just flipping through now, so sorry if I missed yours because we're running out of time. This is from Sasha. Sasha says, the disempowerment of black people in favor of white people is systematic. But for which one specifically? So you have white people together who create specific conditions for that, to specifically give the power to a certain category of white people because they are racist. He has question mark on all of them, so I don't know what that means. See, it shows something with a certain angle can destroy the complexity of the reality, and foolish people. If you take the Asian, for example. Okay, and it continues to say, if you take the example of the Asian people in America, they are more successful than white people. They have more revenue and better jobs, better social status. So if you have a systemic racism in favor of specifically in white people, why Asians are so successful in this system? Matilda, go. There are so many comments coming down, so just go on.
Let's take maybe 1, 2, because like 1, 2 of the main ones.
Okay. We have Rifa here says, at the national or local level, discrimination can arise from practices with racist intent, like racial profiling, in which an individual presumes race is a determining factor in placing them under suspicion. Yeah. See, Mr. Affinity continue with the racial profiling. He says this racial profiling most times is simply claimed. I take that again. This racial profiling most times is simply claim of supremacy. We are better. One thing I experience or note is when ethnic minorities better themselves, rule their act rule their act, they are respected with time. I think that goes with Simon as well, who said you need to take it by force. You need to better yourself either way, martial arts or
I think Kaula has something to say about a comment of Sasha Pakarian. Yeah, Kaula?
Well, I don't have much knowledge about the Asian and how they have succeeded in the America, but I think it's because of the positive discrimination they have and the history of colonial countries from African countries is different than the Asian people. So I think also the history is very different, and also the mentality and the suffering is very different. So yeah, I mean, maybe Matilda, you can talk about it more if you have Asian friends.
Uh, I don't know about being discriminated. I mean, I can see like people were discriminated in COVID time, like the Chinese people were, or I mean, they wouldn't know if he's Chinese or he's Japanese or he's Korean. People generally thought because in America, because they thought they look Asians, East Asians, so they were attacking them by the coronavirus and saying they caused the virus. I've seen it in the news a couple of times, and even my friend, my roommate, she was telling me how she was discriminated in the street. I mean, she's born and raised in New York, for example. Sometimes people were looking at her differently because they thought, oh, she brought or her people brought the disease to America, for example. Um, but other than that, I don't know how. I cannot respond to Sasha's comment. I think it will need more time for me to understand what his point is, and we're running out of time because I want to get to the solution part of it. We said all these things to get to the solutions. I wanted people to realize how we have similarities of certain experiences because of race and how it's affecting us from a personal level. Now I want to see if we can come up with certain solutions, or for people who have felt the discrimination, what would you like the society to continue to acknowledge and to go forward with it? Victor, yes?
Yeah, I've mentioned it earlier on because of the experience of Kala's son. So I've mentioned it that one of the solutions that I would like to propose is as a parent, as an uncle, you know, as a mentor. I would like to. I would like. I know my values. That's Kala's value. Yeah, but I know what the power of words. What see when I was growing up, in Nigeria, when adults are talking, the kids they just they keep quiet, and most of the time they stay away. They don't contribute to adult conversation. So there's a place when adults need to like transfer knowledge to kids, and our daily conversation at home needs to be very, I won't say liberal, but our daily conversation needs to be well filtered. And out of the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So you need to actually start like that. The stereotypes. You need to stop. You need to stop the stereotype. You need to actually know people for you to like judge them. Don't just go out and start talking about, oh, all Pakistanis are like this, all black people like this, all white people are like this, all black. No, you see, you need to actually know people before you start making comments about them. That will be
Okay.
my solution. Yeah.
Very nice. What about you, Carla?
Yeah, I was laughing when Simon said about his solution, because my son would never do that. That would be the last thing my son would think of to do. But my son is armed. He's armed with all sorts of other weapons. Like Victor was saying, my son, I was ready for this. I've been in this game for a long time, being a mixed person, coming from multiple backgrounds and dealing with it from all angles in lots of different situations. Also, the time that I spent in Qatar, I learned a lot. Living in the Middle East, I learned a lot. And I have been teaching my son knowledge. My son is a pretty smart guy. He reads a lot. He knows a lot. He's a YouTuber. He's doing all sorts of stuff. So he's ready for anybody. Ready, big, small, young, old. He has an answer for you if you come at him, because I've taught him that from a young age. I've taught him to have a lot of respect in himself. I've taught him to respect his ancestry on both sides, to love knowledge, and to be ready for anybody who comes at him with any racist comment with some knowledge for them. So that is a really important thing, that your child knows and loves their heritage, and that your child is able to give intelligent responses to things, because there are situations, for example, where maybe hitting them or attacking them isn't really going to serve the purpose. It's not going to do anything. I know Simon put it in a way that makes it sound that sometimes it could work. But in the case where the child is bigger than you and you haven't got the physical strength, or you're not trained in martial arts or any of those things that people say, it doesn't really solve the situation. It may relieve your suffering in the short term, and it may teach them a lesson, but it doesn't actually do anything for humanity in that sense. So while it may have a place to take your rights or whatever by force, it hasn't always proven to be the best strategy. And we need a multiple approaches to it. So my son, he knows how to give a proper response, but he also knows when it's not worth it. He knows when a person's ignorant, or a person is just doesn't want to hear it, that you just ignore them and you just move on and keep it moving. And I think all of those things are important. Your kids need to know when to respond, when not to respond, who to respond to, how to respond, and also to not do the same thing themselves to other people, like Victor said, because it isn't necessarily always that you're the victim of it. Sometimes you can also be the person that's doing it, and that is irrespective of your own background. You may be an African person that is prejudiced against someone who's Asian, or you may be an Asian person who's prejudiced against white people, and making those comments in your house. So you need to be aware of those things and make sure that your children, regardless of their background, are not exposed to it. Somebody mentioned earlier in the comments, and I don't know if we had it up or not, but it was about critical race theory. I think we also need to be cautious of things like that, critical race theory and reverse racism, and things like inferiority complexes and having a chip on your shoulder, and all of those things that sometimes can make it worse. And also feeding into stereotypes. That's what I was thinking when Simon was talking as well, that there are some people out there that are set to wind you up and to draw you out so that you will react in a certain way, so that they can say, oh, see. And that's what I teach my son, is that there are some people out there that want to step in your face, say nasty things to you. And then when you kick them or do something to them, they're going to say, see, they're aggressive, or see, they're violent. That's the thing that you also have to be careful of. And I've educated my son about things like that as well. So there's a lot of complexities to it in terms of solution.
So what about you, Simon?
I'm just thinking of what Carla said. I see what she's saying. It's true. Obviously, in a working environment as an adult, it's quite hard to deal with certain things. But then we have a saying in Jamaica: people treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And if you're like Carla talks of her son, we speak quite often. Her son is very sharp. He's probably, you could say, the junior Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson with his mouth. Yeah. So things like that. He's probably never going to be a physical person. I can only speak for the attributes that I hold, but I do feel it's personally always worth fighting the fight. You have to pick your battles and know when to deal with things. I could tell you many more stories, but we're running out of time. But
Yeah. Thank you, Simon. Yeah,
Matilda, just
you
since
have a
we,
very difficult job, Victor. But
yeah, I'm just sifting through.
do you
You
need
know, since
vacation?
I said I just dropped the banner about solutions, and we are having we're having some solutions. Okay,
I think it's
Rifa says,
important to read Paula's comment since
yeah,
she's coming from.
I'm I'm starting from where I saw solutions. Yeah, I think you guys will give us better solutions about this topic. I hope we did, or some still coming through. And it's an interaction. And Paula said, education, education, only way to solve it. Treat everyone the way I want to be treated. Conversations like this help people to understand more. So, and Frederick's solution is turn off the TV and stop watching MSM, and done. I don't know. Thomas says good is good. Rifa said good one. Rifa said you came up with brilliant ideas. Thank you very much. Yes, respect the main things. Yeah, and Rifa continue. We say show everyone respect, which is a very very valid solution in my opinion. And James says well done. And Thomas says let them move first, then you are obliged to teach them a lesson. That slap that slap in the mouth has taught me and mine every time my best friend smack all of us for not being nice and good. We all learned because we explained why he clubbed us. He was what? 15, what a man. Okay, that's interesting. And Faraz, this is Faraz one. Faraz says about solutions, education, sensitizing people, moral stories, which is great. Developing mind is a way forward. Can't agree more with all of you. Thank you for sharing your opinion. Thank you very much, Farah. And Sitia says, all the people are same. Give everyone same right. And I will take from Simon's word, yeah, give everyone same right. Well, we have to take some, we have to give some. Fighting is bad. This is from Thomas. Fighting is bad, but you need to be a bit bad to teach bad what is good. Um, Satya says, don't judge anyone by their color, black and white, all the same. Thomas said, my mom would know better than me. Okay. Akram said, one of the solutions, start by yourself to teach your son to be faithful. So, Sasha says, I hope we all have more subjects like this. I hope you all have more subjects like this to go deeper. It's very interesting. Thank you, Sasha. Paula said, when all else fails, take a leaf out of Simon's book and punch in the nose, on the nose. That's a very interesting solution. Well, Rifa says, we are all free people. We have the right. We all have rights for everything. And Farah continued to say, no, okay, Farah continued to say, I would like to conclude with a quote. There's no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or of a non-Arab over an Arab. There's no superiority of a white person over a black person, or a black person over a white person, except on the basis of personal piety and righteousness. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Yeah. So I think that is the last one. If I miss your comment, my apologies, because my job has been cut out for me today. Go ahead, Matilda.
You needed an assistant today.
Yeah.
Very good. Kaula, I haven't heard about yours. So yeah, tell me about yours. What do you think? What is the solution?
Well, I think we need to be more united because we see now the world is very divided, and we need to reject those prejudice. And even if we have different opinions, we need to be agree upon these simple values, so our societies could prosper more. And when you see the speeches that were done to give African people the rights, like Martin Luther King, he never said to black people to go and they take their rights by violence. What he said, there's a speech he said, brotherhood is a solid rock which societies can be built on. And by uniting and by doing the good actions, the society can thrive. If we put more inequalities, if we put more injustice, you will destroy the basics of the society. Over to
Very
you.
nice. Thank you. So, we are way past our time. So I'm just going to give everyone 1 minute, not more, to wrap it up. Let's go, Simon, 1 minute.
Can't we all just get along?
Oh, you have a couple of more seconds if you want to use it. No?
Over
Good
to the
job, good
next
job.
person.
Victor, last.
Yeah, before I go to the last one, this is what solutions. One word from Thomas says, "Love always wins." George says, "Welcome, George. See, I'm not superior to anybody. Some can have better academic accomplishments than mine, and that I respect. And educating the young people and the next generation is all we can do, and wait for the rest to die out, unfortunately." So my one word is, or my one sentence will be, this world is getting more connected every day. And knowledge is the speed that we are getting knowledge is so fast that if you keep on having this racist rhetoric at home, these negative conversations in your immediate environment, see, people are connecting on a very positive level every day. So get on the positive bandwagon and join the positive train, because you know we are moving towards enlightenment. So don't remain in the dark.
Very nice. Thank you. And you, Carla?
You know I'm going to mention the V word, don't you? You know I'm going to do it, people. I'm going to say, have a look at your core values. Core values are everywhere around you. And if you haven't got core values that guide what you do, you will always do the wrong thing. And also, I go further than that today. You need to look at what underpins your core values. We've had quite a few comments today about Islam. I know Faha has mentioned about Islam, and also Akram's mentioned about Islam. And I would like also to mention also to the people who are not Muslim, if you look at your belief system, if you look at Christianity, there is no difference between the principles of Christianity and the principles of Islam when it comes to race, when it comes to prejudice, when it comes to equality, love, proper treatment of each other, and also a proper view of yourself. I think it's really important to remember that we're all made in God's image, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God. That's up to you. You have to find your own way to reconcile that. But as a person who believes in God, we're all made in God's image. We're all beautiful. We all contribute amazing things. And we owe it to ourselves to remember that about ourselves, so that we don't allow anyone else to treat us as if we're less than. But also then we owe it to our fellow human beings to make sure that we treat them the way that we would like to be treated. But I think we always have to remember our values and what underpins them, and go back to those core things, because as Victor said, as society becomes more connected, it also becomes more complex. And then there's a danger that we miss sight of things that we really need to be paying attention to. And my final point would be as well, in a world where we talk less and less about faith, we talk less and less about religion, we talk less and less about God, and we talk more and more about science, we have to be very careful, because there are some things that science is amazing for, but there are other things it's not so good for. And it doesn't have answers to things like people and the core things that make people people. race and the whole concept of it, we have to be careful that it doesn't start getting backed up by science. We've seen that in history. And if we attach too much to science and not to God, or not to the bigger things to do with values and ethics and religion, all of those things, there's a big danger that we start repeating history and justifying things based on science. So I think we need to put science and scientists back in their place. They have nothing to do with human relationships. Human relationships are based on love, equality, and respect for your fellow human beings. So that's what we need to emphasize as well to our children.
I love that. Very nice. Thank you. Kaula, your last sentence?
Yes. Just want to add that the pigmentation of your skin has nothing to do with your worth or your intelligence. It's really what you are telling to yourself every day, and how you can unlearn that the label that society would give you, and how you could get over that, because it's time to really get over this kind of bullshit labels that society could tell you and believe it. So you need to not believe in it and unlearn all these kind of labels.
The
Very
number
nice.
one, the number one rule is what it says in a good book: treat your neighbor as you treat yourself.
So,
I'll
Very nice.
wait for you lot to finish that. Come on, you should know it.
But I loved having this conversation today, because I think it's very important to have the reason that we're going to change is to have awareness about it, to understand how we make other people feel by treating them unfairly. So I think this kind of conversation needs to be every day and all the time. So I'm happy that we started it, at least in Podcasters Unleashed. We're changing minds and mindsets. But more importantly, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our listeners and our number one fans. I want to acknowledge our number one fans first. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Akram. George, thank you for coming. Faraha, thank you for being here. Mr. Infinity, you're in our number one fans as well. And Thomas, thank you for your time. Frederick, thank you for your comments. And Paula, thank you for being here. Your comments were very helpful for us to navigate. And for our new followers, we hope to see you again. There's a lot of them actually. It shows that a lot of us are feeling this disease of racism, and it's affecting a lot of people's lives, and it's nice to talk about it and share our stories to each other, to inspire to have a better place in the world. And that's it. I want to close it up with introducing my co-hosts to their podcast and how we can find them. Until next Monday, let's go with you, Simon.
Thank you, Matilda. Podcast is excuse me. Taxi Chronicles is my podcast. I interview people in the taxi, and as they drive around London, they tell me all their little naughty secrets and interesting life journeys, in the hope that it will enhance other people's lives, that they can learn from their experiences, whether it's been good or bad. We publish every day at 8 a.m. British Standard Time, and there's over 600 episodes, so there's something for everybody out there. Over to you, Victor.
thank you, Simon. Thank you. I am the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs podcast, where we talk business stuff, entrepreneurial stuff. Yeah, and it is for people who wants to like shift, have this transition from the 9 to 5 towards a lifestyle of freedom. I am on the journey, so I am learning my way out, and I speak to people who are already there. My podcast is on Spotify, Anchor, um, Google Podcast, YouTube, just wherever your podcast, your favorite podcast platform, you'll find us there, and we publish every week right now. So thank you very much. Over to you, Hala.
Thanks, Victor. Before just making the conclusion, just for the audience to type in the topics that they want to hear for next Monday. It's very beneficial for us because we really want you to share your topics and share your opinions, so we can have more interesting contents. So my podcast, Women Stories Podcast, where I share real stories, real narrative from women who really bring their A game in business and how they have overcame all their challenges. So catch my podcast on Spotify and all other podcast platforms. Over to you, Carla.
My podcast is the Wonder and Wellbeing Podcast, which is a podcast for parents and teachers of kids between the ages of 5 and 14 years old. And we talk about all things to do with education and wellbeing. You can find it everywhere that you find podcasts. And if it's not where you want it to be, then just reach out to me and we can make sure we get it there. I think it's over to you, Matilda. Back to you, right? We've been round.
And my podcast is Coffee with Matilda, A Journey to Self, and it's about finding yourself, loving yourself. And you're going to find it on YouTube, Facebook, and all the podcast platform. Again, I want to thank all these new followers. Please type in, as Kaula said, the topics that you would like us to talk about, to debate about. Even if it's not now at this moment, you can type in or email our podcastersunleash@gmail.com. So we will talk about things that you love to hear. Thank you very much. And we're going to see you guys next Monday, 7 p.m. London time. Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you.